to the segment number 2 of Super Bowl 101. And this segment we're going to have a look back at Super Bowl 4, which was the last time the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Now, before we get to that, though, here is the trivia question for segment number 2 of Super Bowl 101. What was the first team to win 5 Super Bowls? And now we'll have the answer later in this podcast segment number 2. Now we're going to take a look back at Super Bowl 54, which was the last time the Chiefs won the Super Bowl before the AFL and NFL both merged into one league, and Kansas City won that one 23-7. And I want to hold this up here. This is what a Super Bowl ticket looked like. A Super Bowl 4 ticket looked like. And I wanted you all to see that. And that's what it looked like. And they were $15 then, which is a lot cheaper than what it is today. Super Bowl 54, the 4th and final AFL and NFL World Championship game in professional American football, was played on January 11th, 1970 at Tulane Stadium in New Orleans, Louisiana. The American Football League champion Kansas City Chiefs defeated the National Football League NFL champion Minnesota Vikings by the score of 23-7. The victory by the AFL squared the Super Bowl series with the NFL at 2 games apiece, as the 2 leagues merged into one after that game. And that is absolutely true. Despite the NFL's New York Jets winning the previous season's Super Bowl, many sports writers and fans thought it was a fluke and continue to believe that the NFL was superior to the AFL, and thus fully expected the Vikings to defeat the Chiefs. The Vikings entered the Super Bowl as 12.5 to 13.5 favorites. Minnesota posted a 12-2 record in 1969, then defeated the Los Angeles Rams 23-20 for the Western Conference title, and the Cleveland Browns in the NFL Championship game, and Leroy Kelly was the wide receiver in that game for the Browns, and I think it was Baba hell, I can't remember the guy's name who was quarterback, but and the Chiefs previously appeared in the first Super Bowl, which they lost 35-10, and finished the regular season at 11-3. They continued with 2 road wins in the AFL playoffs, dethroning the New York Jets 13-6, then taking down the divisional rival Oakland Raiders 17-7 in the final AFL title game. Under wet conditions, the Chiefs' defense dominated Super Bowl 4 by limiting the Minnesota Vikings offense to only 67 rushing yards, forcing 3 interceptions and 3 recovering fumbles. Kansas City's Len Dawson became the 4th consecutive winning quarterback to be named Super Bowl MVP. And he completed 12 of 17 passes for 142 yards and 1 touchdown with 1 interception. Dawson also recorded 3 rushing attempts for 11 yards. Now, while the Chiefs won, that was the Chiefs' only first Super Bowl win until 50 years later, and I'll mention that one more time, but while the Chiefs went on to be Super Bowl champions, as for the Vikings, they went on and have been became 4-time Super Bowl losers. They've been 0-4 in the Super Bowl. They've been in it but never won it. But I think they will be back in the Super Bowl at some point. Now, Super Bowl 4 is also notable for NFL films miking up the Chiefs. Hank Stram, who was the head coach of the Chiefs at the time when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, during the game, the first time that a head coach had ever worn a microphone during a Super Bowl. Now, as I just mentioned, this was the last Super Bowl appearance for the Chiefs until 50 years later in 2019-2020. So, it's been 50 years since the Chiefs last won a Super Bowl. And Kansas City is, as of 2017, the only team in the Super Bowl era to win a title without allowing as much as 10 points in any postseason game. Now, I'm going to say this. It has been 50 years since the Chiefs last won a Super Bowl, and I think I have this hunch that I think this could be their year to do it. But I haven't told you my pick yet, but I will on the last podcast that'll lead us up to kickoff of Super Bowl 54. Now, Len Dawson was the starting quarterback for the Chiefs in Super Bowl 4, and Joe Kapp was the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl 4. And the head coach was John McDonough for the Minnesota Vikings, as well as Hank Stram being the head coach for the Chiefs. Now, and Len Dawson really, it was about 4 in the morning when he looked back at his clock, and he had he was supposed to be the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl for the toughest season in his career. He come down to pro football's biggest game, and he thought about trying to go back to sleep. Dawson says no, but then the nausea came again. A knee injury sidelined him for 4 to 6 weeks. His father had passed away 2 days before, and for an important game, and his arrival in New Orleans site for the final game ever to be played in the NFL era, and in the American Football League and the National Football League, was accompanied by the numbing discomfort of innuendo, and in his bed next to Dawson's roommate Johnny Robinson was sound asleep, but then he did have some cramps, and it did take a bit to help him to make him relax, but his calf muscles again his stomach churned and rolled, and he limped quickly to the bathroom, and there was a report on January 6th, 1970, that in Detroit, a special Justice Department task force concluding what described as the biggest gambling investigation before that, but Len Dawson's world would change forever. Among the players scheduled to, Len Dawson quarterback for the Chiefs, and he did play in the game, but nobody wanted to talk about the football staff's conclusions that were made, and now this game wasn't even close, and KC jumped out to the early lead at 3-0, and they never let up in this game, and limited Minnesota to just one touchdown and the extra point after, and there was and just really Stram felt his team was really had been slighted by history and deprived of its fair share of recognition, but having won that Super Bowl, and they were out of focus, Stram has said, but having won that Super Bowl, they really got a boast of confidence, and and they just really went on to really. But the Chiefs really had to prepare defensively for this game, and to prepare for the Vikings' inside running game, because they had a great running game back then, and they really the Vikings rushed for only just 2 first downs, and the Vikings were like the Packers, Strom says. In essence, and here's what to do: they tried to stop us, and if they executed, they won. And if they didn't, well, that's how we beat them. So that's how the Chiefs did it. And as Strom had listened to Richard Nixon, who was president at the time, and wished the Chiefs good luck, then Nixon asked Strom to tell Dawson not to worry about the scandalous innuendo allegations, which was the thing at the time. And I will talk about this in the next segment, but the Chiefs worked the ball to the 5, where Strom sent a play and called the 65 toss power trap. And I will be talking about that as I relive great moments in Super Bowl history in the next segment. So stay tuned for that. But this was just one of those games where was just a game where, and with Dawson being the MVP, and they just really felt that, and the Vikings would have to change their game plan rapidly, but they had to resort to almost exclusively to the passing game, but they just could not come away with the victory, and they just couldn't get back into the game, and Dawson, who really dominated this game, and he really felt that, moments later after they had won, Dawson told the press, "I'm kind of tired. I didn't get too much sleep last night, but Nixon really gave Dawson and the Chiefs his congratulations, and Dawson just smiled, and he is considered a legendary quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback, Len Dawson, because the Chiefs back then really deserved that Super Bowl. And I wanted to say, with less than 2 minutes left to play, when backup quarterback Mike Livingston ran onto the field to replace Dawson, even though Dawson had a great game, and wanted Lenny to hear the cheers to know how everyone really felt, Strom said even his teammates applauded as Dawson headed for the bench. The final moments of the game were uneventful. The message already had been delivered, and Grant also conceded the better team had won, and which was true in the long run. So that was 50 years ago, the last time the Chiefs had ever won a Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl IV, which was the last and final AFL versus NFL World Championship game before the two leagues merged. And now it's 50 years later, and the Chiefs are right back in the Super Bowl, and I think this could be their year to do it. And right now, before I conclude this, I want to reveal the answer to segment number 2's trivia question. Who was the first team to win five Super Bowls? And if you said the San Francisco 49ers, you are correct. The San Francisco 49ers became the first team to win 5 Super Bowls on January 29th, 1995, when they defeated the San Diego Chargers 49-26 in Super Bowl 29. And that was 1995 was the last time the 49ers won a Super Bowl 25 years ago. Now I have another trivia question in segment number 3 coming up. And that's when I will do relive great moments in Super Bowl history. So stay tuned for that. So we're going to take a break right now so I can upload segment number 2 of Super Bowl 101. So I'll be back after I upload, so stay tuned for more.